Last time in part 1, we laid the groundwork with a look at Supernatural, Star Trek, and Law and Order. We defined the mirror and the megaphone to show when political entertainment becomes woke. We contrasted episodes from older iterations of the Trek and Law and Order franchises to new episodes to show the shift, and you figured out on your own that it's still happening even now because Hollywood doesn't trust you to make adult decisions anymore. Hi guys, Jason Bodine coming to you from Gadsden, Alabama. Welcome to the channel. Today in part 2, we'll kick off from part 1 to take a look at how the megaphone works, who's holding it, their motives, and the effects it has on you, even after the TV is turned off. In part 1, we focused on the megaphone as the weaponization of didactic storytelling. But just like its physical counterpart, the megaphone is much more than the message that it shouts. It's a complex machine that uses a lot of different components to make sure that message gets out. It needs a microphone and a speaker, wires and circuits between them, and a volume control. It needs somebody to operate it, and a support system to make sure the message spreads. Remove any of those components and it fails. The megaphone is just a hunk of plastic and the message just noise shouted into the void. Think of one of the more benign uses of a megaphone. A football game. For the sake of an argument, let's say an Alabama football game. What do you see? Well, the players and the fans, of course. But there on the sidelines you see cheerleaders. Usually one of them's holding the megaphone and the rest of them are spreading the exact same message with fancy chants and dance routines. Everything in that stadium is a carefully coordinated operation with one goal in mind. Audience manipulation to get the crowd on their team's side. Now, it's framed as entertainment, but it works by fostering a sense of tribalism with effects that last long after the game is over. And that's how the Hollywood megaphone works too. Let's take a look. When we're talking about the Hollywood megaphone, we can easily break it down like this. The showrunner and the writers in the writer's room are the head cheerleader holding the megaphone. The show itself is the microphone component. The broadcasters and streamers like ABC, CBS, NBC, and Netflix are the wires and circuits, and the speaker is your TV screen. The other cheerleaders in the troupe pull double duty as the volume control and the support system. These are your entertainment media coverage and platforms like YouTube that control what you get to see and hear. We can, if we choose to do so, extend our football game metaphor to the band, the head coach, and the bigwigs up in the VIP box. The band is, of course, the music industry, featuring people like this butt monkey right here, who can't do a show without talking about politics. The head coaches are the network executives calling the shots from their plush California offices to make sure everybody stays on message, and they all ultimately work for the corporate offices of woke ideology. There's no need to put the showrunners and writers in the spotlight, since they've already done such a good job of doing it to themselves. And we covered how the mechanics of the show work, the microphone component in our analogy, to convey the megaphone's message a little bit in part 1, when we brought up Bodine and the Charon Cadet from Starfleet Academy, and the preachy, one-sided characters and storylines of the Law and Order revival and the complete personality transplants of some of the legacy characters. But we saved the most egregious examples for part 2 because they're the real smoking gun on how this component of the megaphone works. First we have Checkbox Chelsea, Samantha Maroon here. She's Nolan Price's second chair in the Law and Order revival, but she isn't there to be a prosecutor. Hell, I'm not even sure she's there to be a character. Just like J. Den in The Charon Cadet, she's a mission statement. She's there to be a woman of Middle Eastern descent. Everything she says about every single case is centered around her background or her gender. Samantha, honey, it's a good thing for your boss is Baxter and not this guy right here. Arthur Branch would have bounced you out of the DA's office so fast you wouldn't even have a chance to feel the rug burn on your derriere before you bounced back into a standing position again. Same as he did to Serena Sutherland back in the day, and for the same damn reason. Letting your identity get in the way of the job. Girl, we have eyes. We know you're a woman. But man up! Put on your big girl panties and act like a prosecutor for a change. But as bad as she and everything we said about the revival characters in part 1 are, they pale in comparison to what the revival did to poor Jamie Ross, played by Carrie Lowell. Jamie was a former defense attorney who joined the DA's office for a while before resigning to spend more time with her daughter. What we watched the revival series do to her in its premiere episode was nothing less than a complete and total character assassination. We watched Jamie go from a highly ethical attorney devoted to the law, who even went so far as to rat out one of her own clients in the interests of justice, and then take her spanking for it from the ethics committee, who later went on to become a trial judge, to being someone who was somehow back in the DA's office and using her position to cover up for a and then who pled the fifth on the stand to cover her own rear and ensure that the proper social justice outcome happens. Now, we all know what the writers were thinking. But Carrie, honey, what the hell? Remember when Jamie told Charlie Harmon he could have come to her after he was convicted of accepting bribes to fix cases? Well, if I'd known you were so hard up for cash that you had to accept that drivel when the script landed on your agent's desk, I'd have gladly spotted you a fiver. With those two women, Samantha Maroon and Jamie Ross, we see the primary function of the microphone component in the Megaphone. Inner workings to shatter the mirror so the megaphone's message comes through loud and clear. Now, next in our little tech manual for the Megaphone should be the wires and circuits in the speaker. It's pretty self-explanatory. The Megaphone's message has to get from the studio to your living room somehow. But going into that will take us off on a 20-minute tangent about FCC regulations and data packets that'll put us both to sleep. So we'll just note that it's important to know that the wires and circuits are owned by those same head coaches, the network executives calling the shots, and move on to the other cheerleaders in the squad, the volume control and the support system, because they're the ones that trust you the least, and they're the ones whose words stay with you in your day-to-day life. I'm going to go a little bit out of order here and talk about the support system, the entertainment media like Variety and Entertainment Weekly and the like, before we go into the Megaphone's volume control, and in a few minutes you'll understand why. Since it's one of the focal points of this whole series, let's look at how the entertainment media handles Star Trek Starfleet Academy. When the show first came out, you got nothing but headlines like these. Starfleet Academy is a joyous entry into Star Trek's iconic legacy. Variety. Liberals love new Starfleet Academy series. Modern progressive dogma explains why. The college fix. Star Trek Starfleet Academy charts a bold, heartfelt new course for the franchise, Trek News. And then after the show was canceled, you got these headlines. Listen, Star Trek is adrift on TV. Why Starfleet Academy is folding after 2 seasons. Variety. Star Trek Starfleet Academy showrunners explain why it was so hard to crack the series. Entertainment Weekly. Star Trek Starfleet Academy continues the trend of bringing joy to franchises. So why are certain people so angry about that? The Mary Sue. Not a single headline has a negative thing to say about it. Not one. I know some of these headlines are a bit generic, but if you go and read the actual articles, the messaging is pretty clear. This show is the greatest thing to hit your TV since Betty White introduced the world to St. Olaf. This despite the actual numbers and the fan reviews aplenty painting a very different picture. Now, it's not all the praise for the show that makes them a part of the Megaphone support infrastructure. It's the lack of dissenting headlines, in spite of the real-world data showing the opposite reality. Now, go look at those articles after you're done watching this series. What's the messaging? They're telling you how great the series is, and then they're going on to say that it's an accurate mirror, a real-world reflection of the world we live in. And if you disagree with that, you are a bad, miserable person. If you've already seen part 1 where we covered the difference between the mirror and the megaphone, that should sound very, chillingly even, familiar to you. And that's not the only connection that you'll draw to part 1. Remember when I said the on-screen reason for Cosgrove's exit on the Law and Order revival was a tacit admission by the writers that they're lying to you? Those articles tell you exactly what the lie is. That the megaphone is a reflection of the world we live in. That alone tells you that the entertainment media's job isn't to give real and honest critiques. Its real job is to convince you that the megaphone is the mirror so that you keep listening to the message. What I didn't mention about the Law and Order revival in part 1 was the exit of Jack McCoy, played by the iconic Sam Waterston. I saved that for part 2 because it tries to sell you the exact same lie. That episode played out like an episode from the original run. Jack was back in the courtroom and as feisty as ever. It was that franchise's way of saying, see, we're still the mirror we always were. And it was a lie that was compounded by the casting choice for the defendant. Rob Benedict, Chuck/God himself from the Supernatural series. That casting choice was no accident. It was a subconscious signal to the audience that not only are they still reflecting the real world, but hey, look, we're against writers controlling the narrative too. Speaking of Chuck, remember this? Bodine, your creators may not want the fans to see it, but this Bama boy has a long memory, son. I saw it on the air, both in the original run and in syndication. And Chuck ain't the only one who can party. I'll deal with you in part 2. I made that promise to Dean Winchester back in part 1 over the on-screen exchange that led to this meme. Let's go ahead and fix that, shall we? There, that's better. Now that I've fulfilled every woman's and apparently quite a few men's fantasy of giving Dean Winchester's little butt a sound spanking, what? Oh, please. Don't look at me like you don't know over half the internet crashed Amazon howling like horny little werewolves under the light of that full moon. And then did it again on X the next day. Yeah, I saw you. I saw what you were doing and I saw who was doing it. You couldn't get away from this cheeky fella even if you wanted to.
Don't objectify me.
Should have thought about that before you put my state's name in your filthy mouth like that, pretty boy. You see, Hollywood? I can play that game too. Somebody should have told you not to honk off a southern boy.
A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Someone should have told you not to with me.
Hell, you could have asked Jensen. He's from Texas. He'll tell you. Now, as I was saying, that didactic Hollywood megaphone stereotyping of Alabama was more than just a little inconvenient for the supernatural fans who live here. So, to the writers who wrote it, let me say on behalf of all my fellow Alabama supernatural fans, you and the Impala you drove here in, roll tide. Which brings us to the megaphone's volume control. You guessed that last bit wasn't just for comedy. Grab yourself a cookie. You're right, there's a method to the madness. We'll talk about what I said in just a bit. But right now, what's important is what I didn't say, or rather what you didn't hear me say. We're only at episode 2 of Hollywood Doesn't Trust You Anymore, and already you've noticed a pattern. Every time the action gets a little saucy on screen, this guy pops up with a mute button, like a cop nobody actually called coming to tell you to quiet the party down. This is the megaphone's volume control. So the social media platforms like Facebook, X, TikTok, and especially YouTube telling you they don't trust you to be adults either. And it isn't just about strong language and spicy images. All these sites operate off a set of community standards. Ostensibly they're in place for your safety, but if you really look close you see who they're really protecting. They're advertisers. And you've watched enough videos on this platform to know who their major advertisers are. Hollywood and the music industry, which, as we've already established, are part of the same machine operating on the same software. So it comes as no surprise to anyone that while they generally won't remove content outright unless it violates actual laws, if your content disagrees with their advertiser's ideology or paints them and their products in a bad light, you can expect the algorithm to tuck you in the deepest, darkest parts of the platform. A practice known as shadow banning. And we've just spent 2 episodes of this series exposing what that ideology is. The volume control works the same way as the support system we just discussed, with one vital difference. Where the entertainment media can control the narrative simply by not hiring writers and reporters and reviewers with dissenting opinions, the volume control does it by controlling what we say to each other. Content creators have to play nice if they want to be allowed on the playground at all. Watch a reaction video for any given song, movie, or TV show. When's the last time you heard a reactor outright say, "That sucked"? What did you guys just make me watch? Now, as happened with Star Trek Starfleet Academy, sometimes the dislike is so strong the platform can't mute it. But they're the exception, not the rule. Generally, you don't see it. If you want a real smoking gun, have you ever wondered why more and more content creators on YouTube are directing you to other platforms like Patreon for better content? That's why. Patreon isn't ad-supported. They're subscriber-funded. You're still not allowed to post illegal content, but otherwise you won't find the restrictions there that you find here. So that covers the mechanics of the machine. But who's behind the curtain? Historically, the megaphone is the favorite tool in the authoritarian's toolshed. Dictators on both the left and the right have used it since the beginning of civilization to control the masses. Mr. Mustache used it in Germany. So did the Soviets. So some of you might be asking, if the Megaphone doesn't have an ideology or a political party, why are you tying it to wokeness? Simple. It's still an authoritarian tool. Right now, Hollywood's the only one shouting through it, and we've all heard what their message is. It's been a long time since we've seen a true mirror glinting at us through the TV screen, and there aren't any other megaphones shouting. If there were, believe me, they'd be getting turned over my knee right now too. Ain't nobody but me allowed to tell me what to think and how to feel. So this isn't a left or right thing. I don't think anybody watching this will disagree that fair play for everybody is a good thing we all want. But you see, here's the thing. The German and Soviet regimes didn't start with camps and gulags. It started with media saturation. History books were rewritten, so were fairy tales. Art, music, and cinema were all required to blast the same message, usually othering some other group as the blame for it all. And this would go on until the people had only the voice and the megaphone to listen to and trust. Look around you. Does that sound familiar? If it does, I don't have to tell you who the man on the mountain is and who is other. You have eyes and ears. If it doesn't, you're already drowning in it. Consider this your life preserver. All you have to do is grab on. It's good to want everybody to have a fair shake. But when you're using Mr. Mustache's toolbox to say it, you're just the pot calling the kettle black, and it is damn hard to take anything coming out of your mouth seriously. Now let's talk about the why of the megaphone. Why did Hollywood switch to it from the mirror? And why did all those other industries join with it to shout the same message as one larger machine? I think we can keep this one short, sweet, and to the point. It's the same reason Mr. Mustache used it. It's the same reason the Soviets used it. It's the same reason Captain Haircut over in North Korea is using it today. Isolation. Just like them, Hollywood doesn't trust you to see the world the same way they do. So they don't want you trusting your neighbor either, because they might have a different opinion. Where there's no trust, there's no conversation. Hollywood wants to be the only voice in the room, and that's easy to achieve when nobody else is talking. I said at the top of the episode that we're going to talk about the effects the megaphone has on you, even when the TV is turned off. A few minutes ago, you heard my heartfelt thanks to the supernatural writers for making things more than just a little inconvenient for the show's Alabama fans with their little derogatory joke. The megaphone's most pronounced effect is to create a mob mentality directed against the other group, which in turn erodes the capacity for individual rational thought and allows cognitive dissonance to take root. That's when you hold two mutually exclusive ideas in your head at the same time and can't see the disconnect. I can think of no better example to show it than what happened with Supernatural. That one throwaway derogatory joke at Alabama's expense had two major real-world effects on the fandom's relationship with the state. One, it turned Alabama into the stand-in for a very specific taboo I can't even name here because of that volume control we just talked about. And two, it made Alabama a flyover state on the Supernatural convention circuit. Every one of Alabama's neighboring southern states gets a Supernatural convention. We don't. So if you're from Alabama and you want to join in the fun, you can expect to pay upwards of $2,000 for the privilege when you factor in food and travel expenses. Now, I want to show you the full clip that I got the audio from for Dean's spanking. I know it's hard, but I want you to tune Jensen out and focus on the audience.
Ask me no more questions, I'll tell you no more lies. Anybody? You don't even know that song? I'm so bad at this.
What you just heard are the same fans who use Alabama as a taboo joke and are okay with the state being skipped over for conventions singing its praises. That's cognitive dissonance in full swing. And that's just the effect on one fandom and one state from a throwaway joke written long before the Megaphone took full control in Hollywood. Scale it up to 2026 when the Megaphone is everywhere, and now you have half of an entire country signaling for inclusion on one hand and engaging in the exclusionary practices of cancel culture with the other. Talk about mutually exclusive ideas. It doesn't get more dissonant than that. In this episode of Hollywood Doesn't Trust You Anymore, you learn a lot. You learn that the Hollywood Megaphone is much more than just the message that it shouts. That message is just one component in a larger systemic machine that's been used by dictators left and right for as long as there have been authoritarian governments in the world. We explored the parts of that machine together, and you learned its true purpose: to manipulate and control the people it shouts at. You saw the effects it has on your mind, even when the TV is turned off, and you figured out for yourself the most important thing of all. The Megaphone's spell is broken when the mirror points in its direction. Join me next time when we'll take the greatest mirror Hollywood itself ever built, J. Michael Straczynski's masterpiece Babylon 5, out of the vault and use it to show Hollywood its own reflection head on in our series finale, Spanking Hollywood with its own paddle. This has been Jason Bodine coming to you from Gadsden, Alabama. Please be sure to hit that like and subscribe and tap that notification bell if you'd like to support the channel, and I'll see you for the next one. Peace.